It's a True Faith podcast. I'm Norman Reilly, joined by Ben in probably the coolest office in the whole of Newcastle, and Alex on the phone from Singapore at probably, about 4 o'clock in the morning.
It is, it's 4:05, yeah. More
or less, 40 minutes since the end of the match, and still probably at DEFCON 5 level on the devastation scale. But first and foremost, I am going to put out a plug for the new issue of True Faith. 60 pages of Newcastle. Get to the website, get on the Twitter feed, get on the Facebook page and download it, because regardless of today's defeat, it's still a brilliant read. And when the dust settles, you're going to enjoy it. So go on ahead for that. Free. And obviously there's an article in there from me as well, the A to Z. So, just for me, please just go out and look at that.
Shameless, Norman, shameless.
Shameless, but what are you going to do? Got to pay the bills, haven't you? So, lads, I'll start with you, Ben. Let's just get straight into it. Give me, I'll tell you what, let's go for any positives that you can pick from that.
Where the fuck do you start with that? We've scored 2 goals, which we've not done for a little while. I thought we looked a threat going forward. I think obviously Gale's nipped in, had a couple of chances where he's been very close to finding the net, and then finally in the end he's got a bit fortunate with the one that's gone in, but we got back into the game, and then at that stage I just felt like we were going to nick it. I thought we were in the ascendancy, we finished the game well, but I think that's about all I can do in terms of the positives. Again, another very frustrating game to watch.
Alex, would you add to that in terms of any positives that you took from the performance, given that you watched it on TV and you've obviously you might have a slightly different perspective to us?
My different perspective is ruined because I'm currently about to cut both my ears off after having to listen to Tim Sherwood analyse the game. I don't know how you international mags date. I think that I've watched some Premier League footy tonight as it is for me, and the people they've had on have been like Townsend, Sherwood, Ian Wright, and just generally people who know less about football than your average Singaporean
football war criminals.
Know the game exists. but back, yeah.
Chairman Sherwood.
Back to your point, there are some positives. There's always positives to take out of any game, pretty much, but there are a lot of negatives as well. But if we're trying to be positive before we get really, really negative for a minute, Hosselu scored, and I put on Twitter on the TF NUFC pod account at TFWeeklyPod, give her a follow. There's no point criticising the team. You're allowed to criticise after the match. Everyone's allowed opinion, blah blah blah. But people slagging off the team selection. I disagree with the team selection. But people go nuts at Hosselu, etc. For him to score was brilliant. I saw a tweet saying that. Someone saying, I hope Hosselu doesn't log into Twitter 5 minutes before each game. He's probably just gone home. That would impress some people more than I'm actually playing. But he scored, and he didn't just score, and it was a really well taken goal. In fact, that was a really, really good goal. And without wanting to get negative for a minute, we just I hope these lads of ours in the change room now are sitting there so angry with themselves. We scored a fucking brilliant goal. Mm-hmm. That first goal. The football, not just the ball from, I think it was Murphy with the outside of the foot, which is delicious. Yeah. The run from Gale between the centre-back and the full-back, I've been banging about it for months. It's exactly what Mitrovic doesn't do. Not that I'm trying to make this about Mitrovic. It's just an example of what Gale brings to the team. The cutback by Sherwood on the cutback. It's a brilliant cutback by Dwight Gale. I don't think he means it. Yeah. What? Just absolutely fucking ridiculous. But then Hosselu finishes with it.
I was just going to say, I thought at the time as well, oh fuck, what's he going to do it? It was a really difficult ball to find, and I mean, obviously from where we are, I thought he'd picked him out perfectly, because it was literally just in his stride, exactly where he'd want it. So I'm going to give him that he meant it. And
he scores, and that's dead positive 3 goals for the season. My top scorer now, Hosselu. So that's positive, and that can only help his confidence. The link-up play between Hosselu and Gale was good. Gale has those 2 kind of snatched shots where he does well to get them away. They both go just wide. On another day, they both go in. So I'm positive and happy about that. That's better. But I mean, it's kind of part of a whole different conversation on the formation.
Yeah.
So how much positivity you can take from the 2 strikers both doing their job and bagging is another question. But it's just so frustrating that I've said it before, and dauntingly and really negatively, it reminds me of the last relegation season. We almost have to score the perfect goal, and I know that doesn't apply for the second goal. We have to score the perfect goal. Leicester's 3 goals tonight were a fucking disgrace from our point of view.
Yeah, well, I'll stick my 20 seconds of positivity in here. Hostel and Gale, yeah, absolutely agree. I actually thought Manquillo, given who he was up against, I thought Manquillo had a decent game, and did he put the ball through for the first goal? Was he involved in the build up for that?
I thought it was him, but it might have actually been Murphy looking at Twitter. So I should know. I've got replays, but
I thought he was all right, and I mean that's more or less it. I mean, there's an argument to say that Clark wasn't too bad, given that he was alongside Lejeune, who I'm sure we'll go into in a second, who had an appalling game.
But Norman, you're saying Clark wasn't too bad, and I can't really disagree with it. Can one of you tell me why he runs towards Jamie Vardy for the second goal?
The last goal, yeah.
Zero idea for that.
It's brainless, and I talked about this after
for the third one.
After the Watford game, yeah, for the third one.
Yeah,
you know, for against Watford, for Watford's third goal, he's I don't know what's going through his head. I can't think, oh, he's trying this or he's trying that or he wants to do this. It's the same thing here. Lejeune has got Jamie Vardy. Now, Jamie Vardy's capable of beating Lejeune, who, again, Lejeune is another conversation as well because he's not looking like the player we're signed.
We'll go into Lejeune, no doubt.
Yeah, but Clark, for me, there, it's not as bad as a mistake as Perez. I mean, Perez let Nagasaki run through for that goal. It's almost like negligence in the workplace. I'm serious. It's that bad. I'm sure you lads haven't seen the replay. Okazaki, Perez has a 10-year for that goal, and he just lets him wander past him, and then he realises that shit, he's my man, and then he goes and smashes the ball in the back of the net for Leicester. Like, people say Rafa makes subs that don't change games. Well, he fucking changed a game there, Perez.
Ben, we've just naturally flown straight into the overall piss poor performance by certain players and the overall, I mean, in general, bad performance. I mean, where should we start? I'll tell you what, Ben, why don't you go with Isaac Hayden? Let's start right at that point.
Just we've said numerous times he needs to do more with the ball. Today was just, I don't want to say gutless because I think that's too harsh and not really fair. He's a good bloke. Like, he obviously, I don't think he's a gutless player, but it's just you can't, like, he just passes the buck every time when he gets the ball. He doesn't want the ball. He's happy to pass it off to a centre back. Now, I don't know if that's part of the instructions in terms of the way we want to play, but however, mate, at some fucking point you've got there, like when you've got yards and yards in front of you, you've got to take a bit of responsibility, a bit of accountability, and fucking try something. Just carry the ball forward. He just was non-existent today. Didn't offer anything when we had the ball. He was getting run ragged by Damari Gray and Mahrez cutting inside, and they were, I mean, they're talented players. They've got bags of pace. They were causing away all sorts of problems. But I mean, he didn't even fucking get like a shot in, like a fucking punch, until the needless yellow card in the second half, and it's just like that's not the sort of performances we're used to from him. I mean, at least he normally puts himself about, and normally he would get a book in early on from a silly kick or something, but he's at least putting himself about. Today, he just couldn't get anywhere near them, and he just
Can I just come in?
Yeah.
Yeah, just to agree with Ben. Ben, you're absolutely spot on. The case in point for all of Ben's comments, the third goal. Okazaki, by the way, we just remember, please, is Okazaki. He's not fucking N'Golo Conde. He's not Zinedine Zidane in his pomp. He's like a fairly average striker who would probably get into our team, but who's like not that good at footy, if we're being honest with ourselves.
He started on the bench for Leicester, who've not had a great season. That says it all.
Yeah, and Isaac Hayden, who is, supposedly one of our best central midfielders, obviously started the game today. He's got, in the 90th minute or whatever, it was the 88th minute, he's got Okazaki in the centre circle and he's making a challenge against him, and there's a counter-attack situation on, and he goes in and he wins the ball, and what happens next is just baffling. Isaac Hayden stands up and doesn't go for the ball. He doesn't clean him out. He doesn't foul him. He stands up and backs off, and Okazaki, who's been successfully tackled, backheels the ball past Hayden, and the score as a result. And again, Hayden doesn't track Okazaki. And I'm sorry, but that's below the required level of the Premier League
I agree.
by a mile. It's not like a mistake. It's not a mistake that's below the required level for me, and it's inexcusable how he's allowed Okazaki to have his pants down there, and it's just so disappointing.
Well, I think the thing for me that got me as well was it's almost like we weren't taking any kind of like lessons from what was happening after we scored the goal, and then it seemed to be a case of Leicester. There was a massive gap from sort of our centre forwards to our defenders. It was almost like the midfield was centre midfield was non-existent. And prior to the goal from Mahrez, they'd had 3 shots, and each time the shot got closer to goal, it was like the law of averages here is going to tell you that they're going to keep shooting, and one of them is going to fly in the net. And I think within about 20 seconds, I think we messaged each other possibly, and I mentioned it to your brother Campbell, and I said, if this keeps happening, they're going to score. And needless to say, they did. And it's like, where's... Can you not, like, if you're on the pitch, surely you can kind of pick up on the fact that you're leaving the space.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen, and that was really frustrating.
I actually set aside that, so we had the Gray, I think there was one from, it was like Albrighton or Gray or someone in the first half, like, had a terrible shot, went miles over. Second one from Gray, literally from where I was like, that's curling in, that's it, or like, just whisker wide. And I turned around to the side and said, they're going to score from one of these, and lo and behold, literally within 5 seconds of us saying that, Mahrez just puts, and I mean, Darlow, like, what are you doing? But it's just, it was like, obviously Darlow's got to take the blame for that one, but at the same time, like, they were going to get a quality shot in at some point, whereby he probably was going to have very little to do. Unfortunately, this one he should have done better with, but it was just, you just saw it coming, and I think it was just a sign of how run ragged our midfield was today. I mean, you've just said there, it was as if we were playing without one. You're right, like, we didn't have any sort of control on the ball. We're literally, the centre mids were playing so deep. Didn't really want the ball. I mean, the ball's getting played forward most of the time from the centre backs. I mean, if you have what was the fucking point in the way we were playing today of playing 2 centre mids, because they were losing their shape every time they were attacking. We didn't sort of play any development football through Hayden. I mean, Marino obviously made some good passes and I thought didn't play too badly. But again, like, he's a one-man player. Like, he can't do it all, and it was just really frustrating.
I'll jump in, because I think we need to analyse the first goal a little bit more than that, because we'll have to. I think today's podcast is we're going to have to talk about mistakes and whether they are mistakes, because there's mistakes, and then there's players playing at their level, which isn't a mistake because the player's not good enough. But the first goal, again, I've had a chance to watch numerous replays where you lads haven't. So what happens? We can blame Darlow. Yes, we can. Number one, he should have done better, in my opinion. It's a really good shot, and it's moving. You should still say that he gets his hands to the ball. Yeah. Disappointing from him, and we've championed him all season to play ahead of Elliott. So that's disappointing. Disappointing from Isaac Hayden. Number two, Riyad Mahrez literally just walks past him. Yeah. He doesn't put a tackle in. He doesn't like drop a shoulder. He doesn't like do a step over. He just runs past him as he shoots and scores. So that's poor. But what actually happens is Marino wins the ball. Hosselu, one of them, wins the ball, and Marino tries to play the ball back to Hosselu, and it's intercepted. Now at this moment, Jacob Murphy is marking Riyad Mahrez. When we win turnover possession, Murphy's off. Quite rightly, because you can see Leicester's fullback, the shite left back, whatever his name was,
Chilwell,
is pushed up. And Murphy's got this massive gap ahead of him, and we've got a fantastic opportunity. I don't blame Murphy at all for this. He's gone. He's thinking, "Hey, we're fucking gone. I'm through on goal here, essentially." And again, Marino to be so careless in possession, and he knows. It showed you the close-up after the goal of Marino. He knows. Yeah. When they look at the dressing room, they won't blame Hayden for that. They won't blame Darlow for that. They'll look at Marino giving them possession with a clear run at goal, even though, in my opinion, Hayden is powder puff and shite for it. Again, it's like we know Marino's better than that. We do. That is below his level, but we are not a good enough team to give the opposition the ball in those areas. And Marino's under no pressure. There isn't anyone going to make a tackle. And when Rafa's in the post-match press conference talking about mistakes, that's what he means. I feel like looking at Twitter, people are getting too hung up on the minor details, and it's the same for the second goal. The second goal is unlucky because it's a deflection. It's a nice touch from Albrighton. It's a nice shot from Gray. Really good players, those two. broken our team. Good footballers, good play. You know where the mistake comes? It's the fact that Riyad Mahrez, by the way, what is he worth? 60 million quid? 40 million quid? Riyad Mahrez is allowed to pick a pass unchallenged from within our own half. How are we allowing one of the best players in the Premier League, Footballer of the Year season before last, to pick a ball out under no pressure in our own half? So we can't talk about bad luck. And that was the crack on Twitter. It was like deflection. I felt unlucky with the deflection. It's not bad luck. When you give players of that calibre time and space in the ball, and your two midfielders are not pressing when he's allowed to just... I think he runs around in a circle. There's no pressure on the ball. Leicester put 15, 20 passes together, and he picks out that ball, and it's like... That for me it's worse than the other goals because there's just how can our centre midfield, how can our strikers, and how can our wingers be comfortable with Riyad Mahrez being allowed to pick out balls? He's a world class footballer, and we're just going to keep getting unlucky if we continue to play and defend in this manner.
Well, there's a real as well. Like there is a real lack of belief amongst the players at the minute. I started noticing it down at West Brom in that little spell, and the kind of same thing happened against Chelsea as well when we went 1-up. But it was almost like the confidence was still exactly.
They're going to come back away.
And the same thing happened today, and I hate to say it, but yes, mistakes come a lot faster and a lot quicker when your confidence is low, and it's almost like we went 1-up. And I think Murphy had a decent effort and Gale had a decent effort. But after that, it was almost like, because one of those two shots didn't go in, it felt like the players were kind of waiting for something bad to happen. That's what I felt. And there was almost like an inevitability about the second goal. And at that point, I thought that was it. But then obviously, well, it wasn't, was it? We went on and equalised. So I don't know if you want to go onto that, Ben.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Go on, Ben.
No, go on.
I was just going to pick you up there more on that and agree with you, but also give an example. We have this conversation almost weekly now about how poor we are after we score, and it's just like demoralising, and it's like, and we will try and be positive.
No, the arguments are getting tiring. The arguments are getting tiring now, because I mean, like I think for the past 5 or 6 podcasts, we're basically saying the same thing.
It's the same thing, and it's like, what I noticed, just to build on your point there about them basically not waiting for something bad to happen. It was almost like when we scored our first goal, we stopped running, and it was kind of the same at Chelsea. It wasn't that we dropped so much deeper, and we did drop deeper after we scored, but it was we stopped running, and it's like I'll go back to the first goal when Mourinho gives the ball away and Hayden just lets Mahrez wander past him to score. It's like I don't understand what happened to our legs. It's almost like I don't want to blame the manager too much, but it's almost like I remember when he first came to the club, and he had to stand on the touchline for 90 minutes and coach the team and the players through the game.
What did they?
He literally had to say, "You stand there, you stand there, you stand there." Now he still does that to an extent, but nowhere near as much. He's on the bench far more sitting down, and it's almost like I feel like I just want to. A journalist to say to Rafa in a press conference, like, Rafa, can you please sort these lads out after we score? Because taking the lead in the Premier League game, in any Premier League game, if you look at the statistics, that should be enough to win the game. Not against teams of top 6 quality, not at Man U way, not Chelsea way. I'll give them that, I'll give the lads that. Man U are a good team and Chelsea are a good team. The response to our first goal by us today was a disgrace.
Yeah.
You have called it there. You were even saying at the match, these are going to score here. I text you, Norman, before the score saying these are going to score here, and it's just like surely the coaching staff and the players have got to get together and think, right, lads, when we score, how about we keep playing the way we're playing? How about we don't jump 20 yards deeper?
Yeah.
How about we don't just stop running in midfield and giving the ball away? It's just like I don't have any answers for you or for anyone listening. I'm just kind of vocalising my frustration that it's like the definition of an insanity is just doing the same things over and over again. It's just mindless. We
seem to get into a state where we land the first punch, and then it's a case of right, well, we'll let you have your crack now, and you're completely right. It's just what the fuck are we playing at? Letting them. I mean, after we scored, we dropped. I mean, you're right. We did. We dropped so deep and just let them have the ball. And I mean, bear in mind they fucking held. They're not a good team. I mean, they gave her the ball about 10 times in the first half, just passing straight to her. I mean, they didn't play very well at all. I mean, the chance
Can I compare us to every other team we play? We've come behind to win a game once under Rafa, and that tells you about how it doesn't make any sense. It's nonsensical for us to be so bad after we score a goal and keep the lead. For us, in return, to be so bad at doing that. You know, when we went to Brighton this year, and there was a very even game, and Brighton scored. As soon as Brighton scored, they were all over it. As soon as Brighton scored, they should have scored a second goal. I think Rob Elliott makes a good save. They should have already scored and made it 2-0. And then John Joe Shelby comes on, which I'm sure we'll get on to, and changes the game, and we should have got a point. But whenever we play against other teams, when they score against us, that's when they're dangerous, because their confidence is up, because they're on the front foot, because the crowd's up.
They go for the jugular.
It's just baffling how we're the opposite. How it's like scoring a goal makes us worse. It's just baffling, honestly. I don't have an answer for it.
You're right. It's just I think it's the mentality of the team. I mean, you're saying there about your point about Rafa coaching the players. I mean, for fuck's sake, lads, like you're professional footballers. Like, you shouldn't really need some. I mean, just to your point about that first goal. Like, if somebody gets past you, surely it's just fucking like your natural instinct is to try and recover and fucking make an effort to make sure that they don't just get past you. You don't just fucking give up and bloody let them get past you. But I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you what. Well, you mentioned that, you know, that John Joe came up there. Obviously, the Shelby word came up. Now, I'll ask you this first, Ben. Can you kind of, I don't know, roughly put your finger on why you think, or what the rationale is behind not putting Shelby back in the side and keeping either Marino or Hayden in instead?
I mean, it was the first thing I set aside when I picked him up straight away when we heard the team announced. I was like, there's no Shelby. And just straight away, I like, you know what type of game it's going to be. All I can think of is that well, before the match, I would have said the only thing I can think of is that we're going to try and keep it tight. We're going to battle them for the first sort of first 60 minutes of the game. And then we'll have a go at them at the end, and we'll bring him on and try and dictate things once we've tied them out. But we didn't play like that. We started, and it's weird. Like the first 6 or 7 games of the season, when we were nicking wins and we were playing quite well, we started every game really badly. The first 20 minutes in every game, I remember I've probably mentioned it a few times on the podcast, and always say they had the better of the first 20 minutes, but we got through that spell, and then after that first 20. We came built into the game, and we were structured, we were working hard, we looked like a proper team, difficult to beat. And it's literally as if, I don't know why, but just this switch of the formation seems to have completely switched that on its head. We're starting games quite well now. I mean, that's second or third game in a row now. We've gone ahead first, we've scored first in. But it's after that 20 minutes, then we'll just fall apart and we'll get torn apart. And you look at Leicester now; they've got a lot of players, got a lot of pace. They could have like done a lot of damage to us today. And that the only thing I can think, I mean, Si was saying it, was that Shelby, you probably lose his best sort of abilities towards the end of the game. If he's tired, you're not going to get that opportunity. So you probably want someone like Hayden on there for the legs to do all the running early in the game, let them tire themselves out, and then you try and have a go and win the game at the end of it. But today, I don't have a fucking clue what the plan was. I mean, we didn't see Shelby. Now, I don't know if that's just because of the way the game went. He probably felt like he couldn't bring him on because we were so open, or we didn't want the ball. But you look at a player like Marino, and he's wasted when we're playing like that. He's brilliant on the ball. He's fucking. I mean, I know you called him out for a loose pass, but there's plenty of other times where he's so comfortable on the ball, and he's the type of player. If you put him and Shelby in together, we've seen it in times when they play together this season. They can dictate any midfield in this league that can go toe to toe with anybody. Why we don't want to do that, I don't understand. Especially teams that, okay, the top 4, top 6, top 8, or whatever, that have got world-class players in pretty much every position, or at least top quality players. Fair enough, you're going to struggle to dominate those teams, but why against teams that don't have that are we so sort of what's the word, like reluctant to try and just have a bit of possession of the ball and utilise some of our strengths. I mean, Marino, everyone said, has probably been one of the sort of the signings of the season and been really, really good. And if we just kept the ball a bit more, would probably relieve a bit of the strain on the defence. But instead, today, we didn't want the fucking ball. So every time the back four won the ball back, we were just hoofing it back to them and letting them get the ball back. Now, in a game where they've got Gray, Mahrez, Albrighton, who are all a lot quicker than the majority of our team, all interlinked and play. I mean, there were times where there was Mahrez and Gray were switching, and they were completely just Marino and Hayden were taking out the game like that because they didn't have the pace to fucking switch direction and go again. It was happening time and time again. You just think, fucking hell, lads, like we can't just keep giving them the ball back and letting them have their way with it. So go back to the original point with Shelby. You just think, like, we couldn't have done any worse trying that, and I don't understand why he's not given that an opportunity for that partnership in Marino and Shelby to develop. I mean, we're playing 4-4-2. I've said it a number of times. I mean, people might disagree, but what's the fucking harm in having Hayden like sitting and playing Marino and Shelby as a midfield too, or maybe pushing one of them a bit further on? Just fucking try it. Like, I mean, you play Perez in that position, who is very hit and miss. Hostel's playing it at the minute, and you just think, why the reluctance to get two of the best players on the pitch together? I just don't. It's mind-boggling at times.
I absolutely. And Alex, would you like to add to that?
Yes. So, first thing, I feel like you'd said Jack Colback is a better player at the moment than Hayden, and would offer more to the team. And Rafa made a mistake, and he's made a mistake by starting with Roberto in goal. I think his treatment of Jack Colback, who probably isn't good enough for the Premier League, is bad. And I think Jack Colback would be better alongside Marino if he's not going to play Shelby, because Jack Colback's a seasoned Premier League footballer. We kind of need to take a step back, lads, and this is towards the wider debate of investment in whether it's just Rafa doesn't have the tools or we should be doing better. We're starting Premier League games in 4-4-2 with a 22 and a 20-year-old. It's negligence. I'm sorry, and people ask why does he play Diarmi in midfield? And maybe because, again, Diarmi, even if you don't like him, at least he's been about a bit. At least he's got a bit of experience. Those two, what reserves of experience do they have to call on? When can Isaac Hayden think in the Premier League, you know what, we're up against this time and we did this? And there's a real lack of leadership in the middle of the pitch from two kids, and that's what I can get as annoyed as I wanted Isaac Hayden today, and I thought he was really poor, and I'm starting to wonder if he's good enough. They're two kids playing centre midfield for Newcastle in the Premier League, and that's a joke. And it's also poor on the manager's behalf, because we've got Jack Colback, we've got Jandro Shelby, you've got Henry fucking Sivert. Yeah, he might be shit, but that centre midfield performance from those two today was
we're scraping the barrel here. Jack Colback and Henry Sivert.
That centre midfield performance was so bad today from those two that it could not have possibly been worse. And just back to your point before, I don't think it was your point, but I think it was Si's point. It was not here, but he said that, you know, the problem with Shelby is he tires, and he's probably right in that you can bring him on for the end of the game and he can influence the game at the end. Leicester today were playing 4-4-2. Damari Gray is not getting back in to help the midfield out. Riyad Mahrez is not getting back in to help the midfield out. So if there was ever a game to play 4-4-2 and play Jandro Shelby, who was going to have time and space, it was today. And something's clearly happened. We can't sit here and be like, it's tactical. It can't be tactical. You can't look at that performance today from our midfield and think it was a tactical decision not to play Jandro Shelby here at Chelsea and at West Brom. And West Brom, by the way, changed the game when he came on. He was superb. He's not the best player in the world. He's one of our most important players. That midfield performance today to me, makes me feel a little bit better about the rest of the team, because we were so bad in the middle of the pitch. To kind of feel hard done by a defeat suggests that there were positive things, and we've talked about up front, except we've talked about the full-backs did all right today. The wingers, it's a hard one, but, it wasn't like previous games where in terms of where the goals came from, but that sort of midfield performance in those two today was really damaging on the manager, in my opinion, because to not play Jandro Shelby, and he's not the solution to all our problems. He's got his flaws, but there's just no way that playing him or anyone else would have been as bad, and throwing those two kids in like that at the deep end of the Premier League, it's having some disastrous consequences. Yeah. And I think you look at Isaac Hayden's confidence, and it's just gone, shot.
Yeah, I mean, Shelby for me has to come back in against Everton on Wednesday. I mean, we're kind of moving towards discussing the next game because it's so close. And bearing in mind the performance, I think Lejeune, again, you're talking about confidence with Hayden. Lejeune's confidence to me looks absolutely shot to pieces. There's kind of he's got no like authority when he's going for the ball, and even the goal. I mean, the winner for Leicester, he makes a good tackle, but it looked to me, I don't know if you obviously had the benefit of watching it on TV, Alex. It looked to me like he kind of slipped. He won the ball, but he slipped, and that obviously led to what it did. But even like the basics, his positional sense looks a bit ragged at the moment as well. And again, that might be down to a confidence thing as opposed to an actual ability thing. So given that Lascelles was on the bench, I think, again, there's a strong argument for bringing Lascelles and Shelby back into the side on Wednesday. I don't know if either of you would agree with that.
Go on, Dodgy.
Go on, Ben.
I thought.
Right,
I'll go. I was just going to say. I mean, yeah. I think what appears to have happened is, I mean, we sat here for a number of weeks saying we've got a player on our hands here. He looks brilliant. He was confident. He had a brilliant 20 minutes against Spurs, and then obviously when he came back, he looked assured. He was good on the ball, composed. Was the marshalled the back line really well. The run of games we had where we were really tight at the back. The all four of them, including Yedlin, Manquillo, obviously Lascelles was in, but they just looked really solid. But I feel like, looking back now, I think it was a bit of a lie. Just in that, I think they're not as protected now as they were, and I think that's showing vulnerabilities in them. And I think Lejeune, I think you're spot on, Norman. I think he's not aggressive enough. He's very continental, I would say, in his approach, in that it's sort of skillful, technical, but it lacks a bit of aggression, a bit of nastiness, just to leave something on with someone. I mean, there was a point, I think he got booked in the second half for a pullback, and we actually said, like, that's what we've been fucking missing for most of the season, just a stupid, like, nasty foul where...
Bit of cynicism.
Yeah, exactly. It was just a cunt thing to do, but it was the right thing to do, and it's just like, we don't have enough aggression in this team. There's too many, like, just nice lads. All of them, like, there's no aggression on the pitch, and I feel like that's a big issue, because we're not intimidating teams at all. I mean, teams know, you've already made the point before, Dodgy, teams know we score, we go into a shell and we curl up and say, right, however, we're ready to take your best shots type of thing. And it's just, if we had a bit of aggression, a bit of fucking a bit of nastiness about where teams would probably, it would be a lot more difficult for them, but at the minute it just looks far too easy. And I think Lejeune is an epitome of that, in terms of it just doesn't look like a difficult player to play against. It was nice and easy for Vardy. He didn't have anything left on him. He didn't he probably had quite an easy day today. I mean, he's not had to do a huge amount, but obviously he hasn't scored or anything, but he's sort of had the better of his opposite number, and that's not something we can fucking be carrying.
Yeah, would you add to that, Alex?
Yeah, Norman, like I messaged you during the game, people might listen to this and think, well, so fucking what, but one little part of the game that made me seriously doubt where he is at the moment, mentally and confidence-wise, right on half-time. By the way, we concede on half-time. That is what we do normally. It was almost like, it's almost like not conceding on half-time today. At one point was like, fuck the game, have the 3 points, Leicester. The fact that we managed to get through like the 44th, 45th, 46th and 47th minutes without conceding a goal, that's the win. But in the 45th minute, he won a free kick in our corner, in the Leazes West, I think, and kicking towards the Gallagher, and it was time was done. It was 47 minutes on the clock. It was 2 minutes injury time, and you're thinking, brilliant, run away from it, let Cardalo trot over, kick the ball, and he'll blow the whistle. What Lejeune does, he sprints to go and get the ball, and takes a really quick free kick. Now, as it happens, nothing happened, and nothing was wrong. But I was sat there thinking, Jesus fucking Christ, mate. The only thing that can happen there is that they win the first header and then break, and there's a chance. There are no positives to be had. like, we'll talk about stuff I was talking about before in terms of how the players are so bad in certain situations. This is a very, very specific example, but also an example where I think me and people listen to this, whenever we get close to half time, I'm getting nervous. He obviously doesn't feel that pressure for him to behave like that and do that. He obviously doesn't think about it. And then you look at the lack of communication.
Dodgy, just on that point quickly there, Rafa's covered up all the clocks, so he probably didn't realise what time it was.
It's like 125 years. What kind of a game is that? And that just makes me think that there's not much going on between the ears in terms of being a player who thinks about the game. And you look at the lack of communication. Now, this is an important point because Rafa Benitez told me last year, and he's come out with it in the media, and it's in the Chronicle, that he didn't pick Chancellor Mbemba for large parts of last season because he asked him to go and learn English over the summer in 2016, and he should have already been able to speak English, and he couldn't do it, so he didn't feel he could legitimately communicate with his colleagues on the pitch. Fuck knows what language Lejeune and Clark speak between them, but it's not English. Because and therefore, in my opinion, to answer Norman's original question, I would play Mbemba and Lascelles, and that's maybe, that's ripping the heart out of the centre backs. We'll change the goalkeeper. We're going to be changing the fullback. We're going to be changing the centre backs. Is it too much change? I think those two could be our best defenders, and I think I've been impressed by Chancellor Mbemba since he came back into the team at the end of last season. And whenever he's played fullback this season, he played in the middle against Chelsea in a 3. I think he's been good, and I think he deserves a chance because those two at the minute in the middle, as much as I've praised them in the past, are not doing their jobs properly. And that third goal, we don't want to go back into it too much. That third goal is just like preventable on so many levels. Yeah. And it's like, what, Perez is a disgrace. A disgrace for not chasing Okazaki. Hayden, so poor. Lejeune gets the tackle, but for Kieran Clark, like I said, to run after Lejeune and leave that massive gap in the middle, it's not even schoolboy football. It's just like, if that was us at 5-a-side on a Monday night, then I'd be foaming. Like,
and it does happen, Doug. It does happen.
Yeah, it does happen. But we're not getting paid the money they're getting paid, and we're not, international footballers. And it's just that's kind of as worrying as anything else. That Rafa talks, and Norman, sorry to hijack this a little bit, but I'll ask you a question. Rafa's again, he's saying the same thing, and it's upsetting some people. Rafa's saying, well, had the draw sewn up? True. But mistakes have cost her again. Are these mistakes, in your opinion? Because for me, a mistake is something that happens out of the ordinary. A mistake is something that you don't mean to do. I think Kieran Clark does what he means to do. I think Kieran Clark decides to go and stand behind his other centre-back and leave a massive gap in the middle of the pitch. So is it a mistake? Well, do you think that are these mistakes, or are the other players just not good enough?
You look at it both ways. I mean, obviously Clark, when we signed him, the foaming at the mouth, Villa fans who we have a real soft spot for, obviously. Their major criticism was that he has lapses, at least. I mean, in their minds, it was at least one a game. I'm yet to see evidence of one a game. Obviously, he dropped down to the Championship. Because he dropped down to the Championship Villa, but it was his first year in the Championship, and he was excellent, and he had an excellent start this season. But obviously, lately, those kind of lapses of concentration that we were initially told about have kind of crept into his game. But I'm not going to I can't write him off as a player because there is ability there. It ties in with the confidence. Now he's obviously taken on board a lot of what he's learned from Rafa and the coaching team. That's why he had such a good year last year, and that's why he started off this season well. But if he's a player who needs that kind of focused coaching to cut out these mistakes, I suppose I could look at it due to his lack of confidence, those mistakes are starting to creep back in. It's almost like the training's not having an impact because his head's not in the right place. So I suppose there is a case on this Wednesday to just say, right, this is happening. We need to take him out the firing line for a bit, build him up again in training, and see how we go from there. And obviously that means bringing, as you said, Lascelles and Mbemba in. I mean, I might be completely off of that theory, but I mean, as I said before, and I'm repeating it, the lack of confidence in certain players is absolutely blindingly obvious.
Just on that, I mean, that third goal, he just panics. I mean, he's running back. Lejeune goes to the ball, gets a flick, and foot slips. And I think he thinks, shit, if Lejeune can't get back to his feet, then I've left Vardy. It's basically by hook or by crook. We're fucked here.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, because of that panic, it's almost like it's down to his judgment, and there's no coaching or anything that you can do around that. Rafa could tell him fucking 100 times, right, do this, do that in scenarios. But in that moment, it's literally down to his fucking judgment, and I guess the trust of, like, does he trust Lejeune and get it back? And he just panics. He just fucking does what he thinks his natural instinct is. I've got to go run to the ball and put pressure on it. Now, the frustrating thing is that they don't fucking get tight enough to Vardy to stop him doing anything with the ball. If they'd have just gone tight to him and put a body on him or something, just get tight to him, he probably doesn't get the ball in. But he goes towards it, but then lets Lejeune like be the closer man. So he's literally like a yard behind Lejeune. You just think you've fucked yourself there, mate. Like, literally. You've done the one thing the worst thing you could have done is you've not committed fully, and as a result of that, he's left it come completely in the middle, and it's not just his fault, but I think it's just that again that it was a bad judgment in time, but obviously that's in hindsight. I mean, if Lejeune doesn't get back to his feet and Clark doesn't go, then you think, what the fuck are you doing? So it's fortunately it's one of those things. I think I think he was just fucked either way because of the slip. But you're right. I think it does highlight another point whereby I think he's definitely a player that, and we said it a number of times. The reason Benitez loved him is because he does everything he's fucking told, and it's almost like you have to coach every sort of minute of the game for him, and he'll listen, he can do that. But then when he's left to his own devices, it's like he's not good enough, or maybe mentally strong enough to sort of make the right judgments. But again, I mean, just another point on the centre backs. I mean, you look at the decision making, and every time they had the ball, they had acres of space in front of them to carry the ball into, and they just refused to do it. And they were playing these shite lofted balls to the fucking diagonals to the wingers, and you're just like, what the fuck is that meant to do? Like, how are they meant to bring what you're expecting? Like Jacob Murphy, Atsu in the past, when it's Atsu like 5 foot, like 6, whatever he is, like, how's he going to bring a ball down and do anything with that type of ball? And you just think that the lack of sort of just well, I guess it's confidence and trust in their own ability to be able to carry the ball forward and try and make a positive impact on the game. It's really worrying. I mean, I've been a big fan of Mbemba for a number of years. I know obviously he was dropped, and when he came in last season he had a couple of nightmares and things, but he was a player that I'd said at the start of the year I thought he would be the standout player, and I still think he's naturally the most gifted defender we've got, in terms of he's got the pace, he's got the power. Yes, I mean he's got a couple of mistakes in himself, but at least he's got that confidence to recognise when there's an opportunity to carry a ball forward, he'll do it. He's got the pace to sort of handle situations, and I just think from what we're seeing from the other two, you're basically now in a position where they're all making sort of they're all in a position where there's mistakes they're going to be making, and you think, right, if you just put it on paper in terms of the physical attributes and things, who would you pick? Yeah. You go Mbemba, regardless of how Clark and Lejeune are playing. I mean, obviously that's, I think, what, as you say, why they've been playing, because he doesn't communicate with them. And I mean, fucking hell, we've seen enough times in the past with Mbemba, he's some of his decision making and communication, obviously you can see it's like a big issue, but at this stage the other two aren't doing any better. Yeah. So fuck it, it's just I think he's got to play on Wednesday.
Yeah, at the moment, out of the 4 centre halves we got, I would say that Lejeune and Clark are the ones that are like they're the ones lacking confidence, and they're the ones that I think should be benched. What's your opinions, Alex?
Yeah, like I said before, I'd start Lascelles and Mbemba. He won't do it, and I can see why. I see the arguments for dropping your back two and potentially bringing Portland back in. I'll actually, when Dummercuz does come back in, I'll play Manquillo at right back. I don't think he does much wrong, to be honest with you, and I think he's been decent for it.
And Yedlin's really out of form at the moment as well.
No confidence. There was times in the second half there where there was a little bit of decent link-up play, and he had the chance to whip the ball in first time. He checked back every time because he doesn't have that confidence.
The Watford games knocked him for 6 a bit, hasn't it? I think he probably does again. Like a couple of the players just needs to be taken out the firing line, because
I was just about to say that. I think there's a few mentally tired players there that have we've endured, what is it, 5 defeats in the last 6 or something, and I think now it's
Six in the last 7.
6 and 7 now, yeah. And I think it's getting to the point where like they need to be saved from themselves. Like they're trying. I don't think there's a lack of effort or anything there, but I just think that they're making mistakes now. The pressure's definitely on them. The confidence is like low. That they need saving from themselves.
Yep, agreed.
Just quickly, Norman. The Newcastle United of September, October win that game 1-0 for me. All 3 Leicester goals are a farce. We score the only genuinely good goal of the game. We got a bit lucky with the second one, but what the narrative on TV here from the commentators and stuff. I think I've seen Wes Morgan is Leicester dominant, deserve to win. Leicester created very little. Cordolo has not had much to do. He's made one good save in the second half, really good save. He should have done better with the first. But I think he made a save in the first half where Vardy followed up, was offside. It was a great tackle by Clark. He wasn't offside, by the way, Vardy. We're lucky there, but it was a brilliant tackle by Clark. I saw Leicester have a lot of the ball and kind of ask a lot of questions, but not really. Did Leicester create any real goal-scoring opportunities there, apart from right at the end, which again was littered with our errors? No, they didn't in 90 minutes, in my opinion, and we did with that first goal. So, and also a couple of the other positions we were in. So
we've won it 1-0.
Leicester have only lost teams in the top 5 this season. So that they're the only team in the race in the league, and they've got players.
They're a good side. There's no two ways about it.
A lot of their players are. This is just going back to the positives. A lot of their players are worth more than our team combined. Certainly, the team that was on the pitch tonight. And it's like I thought we were more dangerous than them. I know we're playing at home, but they're 8th. And when people are saying the team's going to finish 20th, which there are some, and maybe we will finish 20th, I don't think we will. There was enough there tonight to suggest to me that with a bit of organisation, with a couple of changes, and with a bit of mental character and some players like Lascelles will, putting their hand up against Everton and thinking, you know what, I'm not going to let Shinji Okazaki stand up in the centre circle and head backheel the ball passes it. Some players who think, no, you know what, I'm going through him here because I'm not in the booking because he's not going to get him after this challenge, and we're going to waste 2 or 3 minutes here to draw the game. There's enough to suggest that would be all right, in my opinion. Still, this is what I wanted to talk about. I know we've been going on quite a while. Normally it'll take you 5 weeks to get this uploaded on your phone tonight, but I'm not going to buy the narratives that it's all down to mistakes and Mike Ashley. Is it Mike Ashley's fault we're in a relegation battle? Yes. This team are better than what they've been showing. These players are better than the mistakes suggest, in my opinion. So it's not just, we can't just close our eyes and say investment. We have to do better as a fan base in supporting the team. The players need to do better, and the manager needs to do better. And any other opinion or any other mindset of feeling sorry for ourselves as a football club because I'm like Ashley will lead to relegation.
Well, fair enough. You briefly alluded to the support there. Interestingly enough, it wasn't the best today.
I felt it was a bit flat.
Even when we won 1 goal up, it still felt pretty flat. I think you said that was mentioned on the commentary on the match that you were watching. Is that right, Alex?
Yeah, it sounded right on telly. I know it's telly, so I don't really want to comment too much because I wasn't there.
No, it wasn't as bouncing as I think we maybe thought it would have been, given the whole 1-2-5 celebrations and all that.
Pre-match it sounded unbelievable. Pre-match first 5 minutes sounded great, but then too many groans, too many just negative things. But again, I don't want to say too much.
I think it's a reflection of a team that's gone through a torrid run, and people are panicking now, and it was a case. And I think what we've just said now is started off well, but you just know this team that the way we're playing at the minute, we're going to give teams an avenue back in. I think that was reflected in the support. Now, whether that's right or wrong, I mean, obviously the players have got a fucking part to play in that, and it's not down to the fans, but at the same time, you just think it's just frustrating that it required it used to be. I felt like in the fans where it didn't matter what was going on the pitch, they were always up for it, and there was always the support for the team. And it just seems to be now that it's dictated by what's going on the pitch a bit. And I don't know, it's just frustrating.
I think I suppose there could be an argument that there's a confidence issue with the fans as well. I suppose we have just had 6 defeats and 7, so you do lose a bit of belief in yourself. I mean, my sort of predictions at the start of the season and my feeling in the first couple of months is way different to what it is now. And that is because we have gone on a run of losing 6 and 7. So even as a fan, there's no two ways about it. My confidence isn't as great as it was. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still believe in the squad and I still believe in Rafa Benitez, absolutely. But of course, your confidence does take a bit of a knock, and it needs you to get that win in. And obviously that'll be on Wednesday against Everton, 2-0. So lads, shall we wrap up? I don't know if you want to put a quick prediction on Wednesday's game.
I think we have to wait to see what happens tomorrow. Everton and Liverpool, because Liverpool look like Newcastle last season for 9 games of the Championship. Who won all them games? That's how good Liverpool look. They'll look a lot better than that. And if they're really paced Everton tomorrow, Everton could come to us and Allardyce could go very defensive. I really don't want to lose to Sam Allardyce. I fucking hate him. He's retired, by the way. Can't believe he's got another job in retirement.
Yeah, I detest him as well. And the thought of losing to Allardyce is just hideous.
Yeah, so, you know what? I think we cannot keep making these elementary mistakes. He needs to pick a better team. We've got, to me, and I know it's complicated because of fitness issues, to me, Lascelles, Dummett, Shelby, Atsu come into that team straight away. And that's a much better Newcastle United 11. And I'm going to go for a 1-0 win.
Good man. Ben, do you want to finish off with your prediction?
I think it's going to be 2-1. I'm staying positive. I think hopefully we'll recognise. I mean, Everton have been fucking woeful this season at times, and I still think they're a very fragile team. Probably similar to us in terms of I don't think they'll be totally confident of coming up here and getting a result. I think Allardyce is obviously going to come in, and he only knows one way to play football. It's be fucking a horrible cunt and just not want the ball and everything. So I'm hoping we'll have a bit more of a positive approach to the game, and we'll try and dictate things a bit more. I think they're our team at the minute on paper. The way they're playing, I think it's a team that we can go toe to toe with and bet there in terms of ball possession and take the game to them. So I'm hoping we'll have a bit more of a positive approach, but we'll see what what comes on Wednesday.
Good man. Well, I'll finish off with my prediction. We're going to win 4-0, obviously. And there you go. And that's it. We'll be back on, I would say, a Thursday after Wednesday's game with a podcast review of the victory of Everton. And as I mentioned before, get onto the website, get onto Twitter, and get their fanzine downloaded because it's brilliant. Thanks very much.